everybody. It's Thursday, so that means it is Trekker's Delight. And I am Marie Brownhill. I'm here with Keith Shevlin, Jason McCammon, and Manny Eunice, who is joining us from the same rough time zone for the first time in forever. So we're super excited to see you. Jason is clearly doing his best impression of 007. So, you know, if he has to duck out, it's because he's going to go save the world. You do you, boo-boo.
Secret Service.
You do you, boo-boo. And Keith and I are playing hooky from work. That's how that's going. So today we're going to talk about episode 3 of season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy, which is Who Saves the Saviors. And yeah, now we're going to see if I can find where the new opening is. So, all right. Are we ready for bean footage?
Roll it. Mm-hmm.
Every other vote. And you gotta admit, the dude that was coming down the aisle, he was kind of cute. I didn't care about my vote.
Here we are. Welcome once again to Trekker's Delight.
Like, literally, my mic falls down just as we go live. Hi, everybody.
Who you gonna be?
The captain of the Enterprise Z.
Love that baseball and the teacup. Like, clearly, TNG DS9 fans.
Man, that we see power rates at some point in this season.
What is going on?
Power has shit to do with the power rates.
No, everybody, this is actually one of the main screenwriters for Prodigy, so we are super excited to hear from you. And
no
also, I'm a little embarrassed for being as critical.
Man, I really love that intro.
This was a nice touch.
That's never not going to be funny to me. And also, out in internet land, Aaron, we are waiting for you to come back since we are talking about Prodigy. Just saying.
That's funny.
I think he wouldn't get past the bean footage, unfortunately.
I'm sure he's watched the show, right? Like, come back to it, just didn't comment or something, like checked in or something.
I think he has, but I am certainly not casting any sort of nets. I got nothing. All right, so since we are going to do one episode of Prodigy, Keith, you want to take it away and tell us what happened in Who Saves the Saviors?
All right, so we pick up exactly where we left off at the end of part 2 of Into the Breach. We had.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, the Infinity is. Wait, is it the Infinity? Yeah, it's the special secret shuttle is careening through the wormhole, holding Maj'el, Zero, Jankom, and Dahl, and they do not remember. Suddenly, Maj'el knows how to turn on the eternal dampener, so they're not thrashing about, but they don't remember the cloak as they crash down on Solemn. Of course, now 52 years in the future, but it's still before the launch of the Protostar. So they begin to, take into account what they have to do. They cannot interrupt the timeline. So the Solemn troops find them because they didn't cloak. And they're like, okay, so we just need to stay out of the way of Chakotay and his first officer, and then find that they're put into the same cell as Chakotay and his first officer.
And the Birdman.
Well, that's the first officer, the Birdman.
You notice that there's one cell, right? Like one. This seems like poor planning to me.
Yeah. So then they decide, okay, so just keep it cool. Don't say anything. Don't just keep it quiet. And then, of course, Dahl immediately starts talking to Chakotay and the Greek as they walk over. And they try to sell them on a story that they are merchants or space pirates. Maj'el has done the Spock thing and put on a headband to hide the tips of her Vulcan ears. And suddenly they realize that there doesn't seem to be a good way for Chakotay and a Creek to escape. So maybe it's actually them arriving there that helps them escape, that they were always supposed to be there. And of course, Maj'el goes, yes, just like the Bell riots.
You right? Plug. Star Trek plug.
And Cochrane's launch. So we're getting lots of references to Bell riots these days.
Yes, finally.
Hey, you gotta read. You gotta.
I don't know that "finally" is the word we're going for.
That's
with
with
the Bell
30
Riot
years.
guys.
Oh my god. We're due for this time to be in the zeitgeist again.
It'll make sense if you read Temporal Mechanics 101.
Oh my god.
That's next week.
You went there, man. You went there.
For real.
So back on Voyager, Janeway is trying. They can't connect to the Infinity. They're trying to figure out, and Rock Talk breaks into the bridge and lets them know that yeah, it was Dahl, and then they took the ship, and then Janeway's just like, this frickin' kid.
She was quite put out.
Yes. So they, begin to try to get in contact. They're also trying to figure out what was this mysterious orb that was warning them. It's back on Solomon, present day. Gwyn, you have Ascensia trying to rile up the Solemn leadership to try to track down Gwyn. Then Gwyn shows up with her father, who they refer to as the Stargazer.
Right?
Yeah. And she has decided to, after going to the archives last week, that or in previous episodes, that she will call on the Valu Ra and challenge Ascensia so that she will be able to prove that she is a true Vau N'Akat, so that they will listen to her. They go into the Battle Dome, which is actually where all the heirlooms come from, and find that weapons just randomly start appearing in your hands after they were forced to give up their weapons before they even went in there. It's like, what was the point of that? You're just going to get new ones once you're in. Gwyn and her have a wonderful slow motion fight. It's well choreographed. And then Gwyn decides the best way to win is to just get out of there and leave Ascensia behind. Back now, 52 years in the future, you have, because when the Vau N'Akat captured the crew, they took Jankom's hand, the robotic hand, so he is able to use the stuff in order to disable the shield and get all of them, including Chakotay and a Creek, out.
By remote controlling his
It's
hand.
an RC thing.
Yes.
It's an RC thing.
So of course, then they're trying to think, okay, then we still got the timeline. We're going to get. So first, then they are going to provide a distraction so that Chakotay and a Creek can get to the ship, and they're flying around like it's Star Trek Beyond and Kirk on a motorcycle again. But unfortunately, Dahl is shot in the disruptor, and it falls to the ground right next to the ship. They get off to the side. Chakotay and a Creek get to the ship. And instead of launching it, Chakotay sees the disruptor and is able to fight his way onto the protostar. And everyone, Dahl and them, are watching it from a distance. They have changed history. And the protostar launches. It's not going to Tars Lamora. Gwyn will never be born. Or dogs and cats living together. Giant Twinkie. Mass hysteria. So just as this happens, Chronoton rates are going off the charts, and in her fight with Ascensia, Gwyn starts to vanish like she, was unable to get her parents to kiss at the Fishes Under the Sea dance.
Like Marty McFly. She got Marty McFly.
Exactly what I just said, yes.
Right.
And Ascensia tries to kill her, but she just phases through all of them and falls down until a giant cone of the heirloom seems to catch her and save her. But Ascensia crawls out as the winner, and she's left, and Gwyn is left down there. The Dahl and them get back to the ship, and they realize that the timeline has been changed. But what can they do about it? And that's where we end this week's episode. I think that's where we end this week's episode.
Yeah, no, I think that is actually. Yes, that is where we end.
Because I watched the fourth episode too, so I got to make sure I draw the line at the right place.
Right, I watched.
I know
like, all of them.
Keith does more homework than the rest of us, so he's clearly better prepared. We know, like rub it in.
So there's no Essentia in the future, right?
Yeah, there is.
With Chakotay?
Yeah.
So ish, because remember, Essentia actually, like when she goes through in season 1, it dumps her further in the future than it did the Diviner, which is why she's younger than Ilthurin.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on how you define future, it's entirely possible that.
But we saw young Essentia on Solemn in present day with Gwyn.
Present day, yes.
Right.
So that means there are actually 3 Essentias, because there's the Essentia that has gone back in time from the farther future, Essentia in present time, and the Essentia in 52 years in the future on Solemn.
Right.
I really think kids are gonna have a hard time following that, because I was having a hard time following. I'm like, wait.
I will honestly tell you that the children don't care.
Yeah.
They just don't care.
Because
my boys are like, so grown-up evil Essentia is there with teenager Essentia. Okay, cool. And they just went with it.
Yeah, and we don't deal with the 52 years in the future Essentia, so
that's
don't even worry about it.
That's the one I was saying. 52 in 52 years, there's no Essentia there.
There's Essentia there, but we don't have to worry about her.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now, don't worry.
Essentia right now.
Oh no.
What?
Are you telling us about the next thing to?
I'm just saying, don't worry about her. Read your Temporal Mechanics 101.
Keith is doing the forget about it. It's Temporal Mechanics 101. Timey-wimey, flippity jibbity, timey-wimey.
For sure.
Let it go. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let it go because we are worried about who saves the saviors. And so the question becomes, who are the saviors here? Thoughts?
Jason.
Jason's
the saviors are our protagonists, aren't they?
The Dal and
they were supposed
Jankom?
to.
Yeah, but now they need to be saved. Or Gwyn is the savior. She needs to be saved.
She absolutely does. She absolutely does. I gotta say, Dal in this season has definitely reverted back to the
100%.
extreme juvenile Dal from the beginning of season 1. I mean, I get that growing up is very much a Paula Abdul, 2 steps forward and 1 step back kind of process. And even at my advanced age, I'm not sure that I'm all grown up either. So, but it's been kind of interesting watching this because this is very much a Dal who's not sure of himself and he's not sure of his footing. And so he's very much like falling back into bad habits. And these bad habits are, again, depending on your perspective, putting him in the exact wrong place to be at any given moment or the exact right place. And that, I think, is kind of an interesting question that we get from, I'm just going to call her Maj'el because it's very obvious that she's named for Maj'el Barrett.
Agree.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
I agree. Like, it's really odd that they chose to have him decide to steal the ship.
Really?
As I'm saying, it's odd because you think he would know better by now.
Yeah, agreed.
And he would have learned something from last season.
I agree.
But it's like he reverted back to, like you said, being kind of
it's reversion
and irresponsible.
Right? Exactly, which is one of the things, which is why I think this is possibly the most legitimate like teenage boy stunt that there could possibly be. And
fascinating.
We also see a bit of a regression, certainly in into the breach part 2, because you'll note it never occurs to him that he could reach out and tell Janeway that something's gone wrong. Like, he could tell him that the Red Squad goons are on the warpath, and he doesn't, because in his head he is still very much that kid who has been conditioned to believe, to trust himself first. And over the course of all of season 1, he expands the circle of trust, if I can invoke Robert De Niro, to include the kids who are on the Prodigy or the Protostar with him. So watching him now, like they've all been separated. So his circle of trust is now comparatively non-existent. So when he gets onto Voyager A, so when he gets onto the Voyager A, that circle of trust is returned to him, and I think that has a lot to do with why he's reverting.
And he
I never
definitely
thought about that.
He was definitely very used to the fact that on the Protostar he was only with his crew. So he can just keep talking about things and not worry about someone listening in. And so he constantly gets caught in the, wait, what were you talking about? What Shuttle Bay 3? What this?
Right.
And that basically also kind of plays into the fact that he spent a significant amount of his life on Tars Lamora, where the diviner had purposefully removed any sort of translation circuits that they had, any connection to a UT. So he's not accustomed to having to have an internal monologue versus an external monologue, because he's been, until his trusted group of people, he's been unable to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Because
You've
we don't
really
know how
thought about
long.
this.
We don't know how long he stayed with Nandi.
Yeah, but don't you find it odd that they found it a problem with, hey, the grown-up actual Starfleet officers are keeping something from us. We have to find out what that is.
I found that not odd at all.
No,
like in the slightest. No. Because like if a child has the vaguest glimmer that you're keeping a secret, my God, you will come home and you will find all of your stuff turned out and your underwear drawer upside down because they have gone hunting for whatever it is.
Yeah.
Not that that's happened to me. I am not speaking from experience at all.
That's all.
Yeah, my one brother was incredibly good at finding where my parents hid all of the Christmas presents, and didn't say a word about them.
Were you on the bottom floor?
But it was years later that he let my parents know that he figured it out, and they're like, we thought we were so smart. You know?
And that's also, I think, part of Dal too, because in Dal's world and Gwyn's world and all of these other, certainly Rock Talk's world, adults weren't to be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's
true.
True.
Because adults were the ones, like Nandy's the one who sold Dal to Tars Lamora. Like the diviner was for the longest time their only actual like adult figure that they ever saw. And on Tars Lamora, that was definitely in the no bueno category of things. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that Dal is defaulting back into some really unfortunate coping mechanisms. Because think about it, guys. When something terrible happens to you, do you automatically default to the healthy coping mechanisms that you have learned over the years?
When I was that age, right?
No,
not even now.
Some days yes, some days no. But it's a hard thing to learn, to be that kind of vulnerable to other people.
What I would say, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but to Jason's point that is it surprising? Like, yeah. I think that it's surprising. Although you're explaining all the reasons why it's not surprising, your depth of analysis and breadth, right? I get it also, but I didn't think about it that much. All I thought, same like Will, when he said in the comments like that he's had enough of Dal, is how frustrated.
He's like, I'm so tired of him not reading temporal mechanics. Just sit down with the book.
I guess I was a different kid, because if I knew adults weren't telling me something, I was like, oh, that's adult shit. I don't care. I kind of, as a kid, didn't expect adults to tell me
but I think that depends
about
on whether
what's going on with their life. Like,
I think that depends on whether the quote unquote adult shit was safe.
Right.
Yes. I was going to make that point.
Yes. And that's the difference for Dal. Right. The adult shit is not safe for Dal. And hasn't been ever.
Yeah.
Right.
And so even though
that's a good point.
He wants to trust Starfleet. And I think that's part of it. He wants to trust Starfleet, but he's been on his own for a very, very long time. And he's having to go back and learn how to function within a much more rigidly hierarchical system. And so it's not really going well for him.
They were all split up as well, Marie. They became this little family, and then Starfleet put them all into the thing. Rock Talk has been like the counter to that. And I'm like, she's like always spitting fire. She's like, we shouldn't do this. We should
Yeah.
do
And
that.
I would
It's
actually
totally
argue that that is also an unhealthy coping mechanism. And that's an unhealthy coping mechanism that comes from time.
I loved it.
What is?
From when she
time
was
amok.
when she was stuck in
yeah,
time for
yeah.
years.
I love
So
that.
Rock Talk is
That's a thing.
terrified of getting kicked out. It also plays into her backstory, right? Where, you know,
That's so true.
she had such a small group. She had her one friend, and then she loses that, and she ends up in Tars Lamora, where she's big and isolated and alone. And that's extremely damaging for very young children. Because remember, I think she's about 7. Like, I mean, she's not like
She's that young.
a teenager, but she's very young.
How long was she by herself for?
Too long is the only
all
thing Hologram Janeway ever said, and that, y'all, is terrifying.
Right.
Like, it was bad. It was so bad that she like cast away some dolls.
Yeah.
It was
long enough to be an expert in physics when she came out of it.
Right. And so she's worked very, very hard to create like an identity and a location as first part of that group. And now she's moved to Starfleet. And Starfleet's giving her the opportunity to communicate with other people, to show that she's smart, and to do something that she's interested in and interact with other people while she's doing it. She's not rocking that boat.
Yeah, but Dal is
She's
not.
not even going to rock that boat. Like until there are catalysts. I'll get to you in a second. I'm sorry, Jason.
Go ahead.
But she's not even going to rock that boat until something creates an effective enough catalyst.
Right, because she's placed in a good, comfortable place, like you said, where she wants to be. Where Dal is the complete opposite. Now he's thrown out of his element, where his element is being in command of a team. That's where he was comfortable. That's what he was striving for the whole time until they accepted him in that part. And now he's back, not in command of anything, on the lowest on the totem pole in the ship.
And isn't valuing the like stuff he's been given. This
Right.
bothers me a great deal. Is that everyone else has been like, Jankom is so in his like, he's so adorable, trying to be like a really good engineer. His hair is slicked back and stuff like classic like I can't remember the name of it, when they fix up the lady and have a bet on her if they can make her civilized. Pygmalion.
Oh,
no, that's My Fair Lady.
My Fair Lady
Right,
is
is
Pygmalion,
based on Pygmalion, the Pygmalion legend. But I would also agree that Jankom's not okay either. And I'll tell you why. Because Jankom is trying so hard to fit in, he is running counter to his natural Tellarite tendencies. Yeah. And it is freaking people out, man.
Yeah. And then you have Murph.
Security officer Murph.
On fire, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Murph is
that good.
Right? But Murph is 100% willing to just drop whatever it is he's doing and go do whatever he wants, right? Like, I mean, like true. Murph's loyalty to Starfleet is like, only extends as far as
there's all the toys, they give them.
But Keith, you had something to say.
Well, I was just saying that with Dahl, it's all about he took on so much responsibility and then had that taken away, and he's only known going back to being the kid again. So he went from having to grow up real quick to like, wait, now I don't have to be. So now instead we get FOMO. He's fear of missing out. He wants to be on the bridge. He wants to be in every meeting, and he can't understand. He saw the invitation from Janeway as a personal invitation and not a recorded message that was sent out to everybody.
But it wasn't really sent out to everybody, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's pretty clear that it wasn't. Unless there's something going forward, then I'm going to be in next week. He's going to be like, aha! But
who's left? Oh, Gwyn.
Yes, Gwyn. I adore. I love this kid so much. My heart hurts for her because she is such the parentified kid,
right?
In these 3 episodes, Gwyn has so much pressure on her, and some of it's she's putting on herself. But y'all, it's not an income. I mean, it's kind of a big deal that Starfleet is just chucking her onto Solum at 16.
Well, she's the most grown up out of the whole bunch.
Yeah,
I think the most mature, the one that.
Yes, but she's had to be.
Yeah.
She's had to be. She was the diviner's right hand critter clone, if you will. then
She had
of
to
course,
be the diplomat because she was the one that spoke every language. She had to be the communicator.
Yeah.
yes, and she also feels deeply, deeply responsible for what happens to Solom and all of these other things. She's very clearly taking on emotional responsibility for those things that have nothing to do with her. Right?
I just
Like,
realized
she's
your name. Valura alumna.
uh-huh.
You beat it. You got it.
She really sort of feels like she has to go and save her people. She's the only person to save her people. And what's
Right.
interesting about that is it's
No
very
problem.
Star Wars. It's not very Star Trek. And I really love how certainly this episode is subverting that trope.
I guess.
Because
I
she
think it's
can't
great.
do it on-
She can what?
She can't do it on her own. She absolutely can't. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that she's Vau N'Akat.
If things had turned out different, I just got to the end of the episode. If she wasn't fading like at the end, and if those guys hadn't messed up whatever time thing they had, she would have made it out. I mean, I think.
Yeah.
I assume.
Yeah,
And
she was winning that. Yeah.
yeah, she would have.
And she would have done.
Why?
And what's interesting is she would have done it without hurting Essentia, because her
Right.
entire battle sequence is her being extremely defensive, right? Like she's not out for blood the way Essentia is.
Sure.
My problem with Essentia is that she's kind of almost a caricature of a villain at this point.
She is like her. I'm looking at her motivations, and I'm just like, her actions are not adding up to her motivations.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree. I think she wants to make Solom great again.
Well, yeah, she's definitely like, we had a civil war. My side lost. That's not going to happen this time.
Mhm.
Like, she wants the civil war. She wants everything that happened before. She just wants to change it from that point onwards. She
would have been on the Serenity.
And she wants to rule as
Yeah.
well.
She
Yeah,
thinks
100%.
that, I hear what you're saying about her being like a caricature of evil.
Of an evil person.
Right. But I think it comes not only to her motivations, but her intentions, right? Like, I can fix this. And you're not one of us. Like, she's also like justified. I don't get this Vau N'Akat. I'm not a Vau N'Akat. It was early, even in the first season, when her father was talking about what a Vau N'Akat is and how she doesn't know what that is, and like you had to be from Solom or do something on Solom. It does kind of remind me of in Discovery, Michael Burnham's love interest, the good-looking black cat that has the empathy powers. I forget his name.
Book.
Book.
And on that planet,
David
they have
Ajala.
like stuff. Yeah, so there's stuff that's like specific to the planet or being around other Vau N'Akat, and suddenly she's not Vau N'Akat. Like,
Are you serious?
We have that in our world too. We have people that move away, that are the children of immigrants trying to go back to their homelands and being cast aside. They're not true because they weren't raised in that culture.
It felt like not just cultural, but like biological.
Right. The other.
There's some conversation about that, and I think that's a really interesting question, because like, as for Sensia, she's not, right, because she is a clone that the Diviner created. So Gwyn herself has nothing to do. Like, so in Essensia's mind, Gwyn herself is one, not legitimately Vau N'Akat, and two, she turns away from what Essentia believes to be the pure purpose of the Vau N'Akat, which is to take, I don't know, galactic supremacy. I mean, seriously, open your grab bag of villainous intentions and pull one out, and it's probably going to work.
Well, yeah, it's just this whole idea that they did not know that there was alien life until Starfleet showed up. So her showing up earlier just, hyperspeeds that. But they're also thinking they still have that superiority complex that they feel that they were the one race until these people showed up. So now they have to assert themselves and take control as the one race.
Marco!
Have we looked at where their planet is on a map? It's in the beta
quadrant. It's in the Delta quadrant.
Is it Delta quadrant?
It's Delta quadrant, yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, I think it's precious. You just asked me if I'd looked at a map. Where's Jermaine? Maps are Jermaine's thing.
I don't think
I have GPS. There are no more maps in my life.
It must be pretty close in the Delta Quadrant. Like,
that's a good question.
They have slipstream that makes all that stuff a lot closer.
Oh God.
Yeah, like remember, I mean, it took Gwyn a pretty sizable amount of time to get to where she needed to be.
Years, right? A year?
Yeah. Something like that. I don't know. I didn't get a really good sense of the time jump there.
Is it close to Tars Lamora as well, Solemn?
I don't think so. I mean, in as much as anything in a galaxy is close to each other.
And
nothing is.
Tars Lamora was reasonably close to Kazon space, as far as we could tell from the Delta Quadrant from season 1.
That's far.
Yeah.
Right,
that's all the way back.
Yeah, because remember they were doing a significant amount of trade with the Kazon, and we know that the Kazon do have a very particular sphere of influence.
I have a question. Sorry.
So apparently does Marco.
I would like to point out that Manny was on last week as well.
Right? Manny has better attendance than I do lately. So.
I'm here.
Yeah, he's here. He was on Trek Live with us.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Just showing up. And also to promote Lower Decks. Like this is also. So my question is about the temporal anomaly. The actual like
you are the science person here, Manny.
What I mean is it kind of reminds me of the Devonian system, or I can't remember the name of the system in the last episode where Q is messing with Picard.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And you have a bootstrap paradox. And so maybe their very incursion by changing that time dilation has actually sent this phenomenon backwards in time to its like creation, but it actually was created in the future and these different spots or whatever because of these incursions. Something where their very incursion has created it, but they wouldn't have been able to do it if they didn't fall through the temporal thing. So although it's a wormhole not only in space but also in time, because it's moving them across the galaxy to Solon too, right?
Right.
Like they're far. They're in the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah, they're on the edge of the Alpha and Beta Quadrant.
Can I also
which anomaly are we talking about here? Are we talking about the anomaly that the Infinity fell through, or the anomaly that showed up and spoke?
Oh, that's the orb.
It's the one they fell through is the one that I spot. What?
So the one that they fell through was actually created by the Protostar.
Right.
Okay. Oh, interesting. What was the fuel of the Protostar? Like, what was the
star? Like it's the name. Because remember, that was the whole point of hologram Janeway, right? Like because hologram, what they wanted to do is they wanted to spread out the damage as long as possible, but ultimately, and they were largely successful, which is why we still have an Alpha Quadrant, and Starfleet and all of the other good things. But the final destruction of the ship did create the anomaly.
Okay, thank you for that. The other thing is the orb that shows up. It has a similarity to an orb that was, I think it was on Solum, or there was like some sort of, you know what I'm talking about.
In their archive, we talked about it last week.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought of you when I watched that. I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, Keith is over here twitching.
Because it's archive.
It is, but it's not a cool archive. It doesn't have all the stuff.
Cool.
So.
It's fine. It's fine. There are lesser libraries out there, and I have nothing wrong with any of them.
I have a question.
Yeah, right. Try real hard not to look down your nose, buddy. Keith is actually a librarian at one of the preeminent libraries in the world. So, and he's very proud of that.
I have a question about moving through a different time and a different universe. So way back on Trekker's Delight, we did an episode. And we talked about Lieutenant Yor from Discovery, who moved both in space, in time and different universes.
Yes.
And he had the fatigue and then Jojo. And I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been trying to tie the Kelvin verse in my mind to the current universe. And so if this wormhole, artificial, natural, whatever it is moving them across time and space, and technically if they've time dilated, a different time stream. So it's a different universe. What I mean is it should technically have the same effects if we have changed universes.
In theory, if we're going to be completely consistent? Yes. But the thing is like we've jumped in and out of different time streams within our same universe, and I'm going to call it a universe, as opposed to like the mirror universe, for example.
Right, that's what I mean.
So I'm right. So they're different time streams, but they're still branching off of the same prime universe.
Yes.
Whereas the mirror universe doesn't branch off from the prime universe at all. They're just unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe that's the
Wait, you thought the mirror universe? You thought the mirror universe branched off from ours?
It
does
yes.
at some point. It's just
I understand
way,
what he's
way,
saying.
way back.
It's way back, right?
It's the
way
handshake.
Yeah,
At first contact.
Well, it's two different ways of.
Well, we got the sense of that from the Enterprise two-parter, but no, it actually.
But it's never actually been. But it's never actually been confirmed. Like 100%.
Aaron Waukee, get in the comments.
Well, this is.
I don't think you wrote that episode of Enterprise.
No,
this is the thing where it's not consistent with the rules of time travel, or it is, and it's not explaining. So, in one way, you can see it as they never fix the problem that they changed in time, right? That timeline will always happen, and that branches off.
Bootstrap paradox. It's the same universe, actually.
Okay. Manny, you are looking for consistent time travel narratives in Star Trek?
I'm just saying.
Where have you been?
I'm loving it.
Like, what franchise have you been watching?
They should be saying what franchise was it?
Instead of fixing the timeline, they never fix it. They just move themselves to the one that they're supposed to be in, and then other timeline continues to go on.
Yeah, they keep on messing with things. Yeah,
but I kind of like this concept, right? Because so much went terribly, terribly wrong for the kids in the Delta Quadrant, right?
It's annoying.
It's annoying.
Like, I want them to have a smoother transition. They're always like, I know they're kids. I know. It's just hard to watch.
Have you read literature before?
I have.
You got to remember their background. They don't know how to live in this society, so it's going to be a constant fish out of water.
Right. I mean, and because not only are we dealing with kids who are struggling to adapt to a different culture, we're talking about kids who don't have the firmest foundation upon which to build in the first place. Mm-hmm. Like, I suspect we've got some rad issues floating around as well.
Rad?
Reactive attachment disorder. It's when you don't have like a solid parental figure, and it actually messes with how you form attachments to other people.
Okay. Like ferality almost.
A little bit. Yes.
Distance.
Yeah, but it can also, result in some really unfortunate reductions in empathy, inability to personify other people. You know, like it's just there's just a whole host of comorbidities here and symptomology. And these kids, right?
Neglected,
these kids, and these kids are very much trying to figure that out. And I think we're also kind of a little hamstrung in what we know and what we don't know about like the actual science, because they're kids and they don't know it. And we've also been separated from Rock Talk, who of all the characters would know.
Yeah.
Fair point.
When you do consider with what we saw in Time Up, she has adapted the most to Starfleet and that life because she had all that time in the time dilation.
Yeah, she's killing it. I love the scenes where she's in it because it's the most Starfleet, to me.
She solved the Tribble problem.
I know.
She figured out how to undo Edward Larson's Tribble.
I know. I love it, man. It was just it was a throwaway line, and then we run off to go to the void.
She literally throw away. She's like spouting it as she's running out the door.
And I have to admit, the trouble with Edward is not actually one of my favorite short treks. It's just weird.
Mm.
More short treks.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see more Star Treks. I'd love to see more Star Trek, period. Paramount.
Actually, this season of Prodigy.
Oh, excuse me.
This season of Prodigy is pretty good. I like it, but it's better than the first season.
I was wondering if you liked it or not. You're liking it so far?
Oh, I've seen it.
You've seen the whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I've only watched the third, but you liked it when you went through it.
Yeah.
So it's redemptive, right? It must have something like where, I mean, I haven't seen it. I just got through the third one. Don't spoily.
I've only up to the fourth. And I'm trying not to spoil myself, but like Trek culture spoiled something for me, and I'm a bit pissed off about it. Something that William was trying so hard not to give away last week. He said something, but then he pulled it back, biting his tongue, and I now know what it is, and it's Trek culture's fault for that. And yeah,
I saw your thing on the Trek culture thing, right?
I've seen some spoilers, but I'm trying really hard to get through each individual episode and sort of weigh it on its own merits. Like and I'm doing that with the boys too. Like we're watching it, and I mean we watched Into the Breach parts 1 and 2 together because that just made sense to me.
Yep.
But now we're definitely slowing it down and doing an episode a week.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. It's good patience.
Patience is one word. It's one word.
I mean, I got Netflix and kept wanting to see the next episode. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is 100% fair.
I bet that's the way to consume it. Maybe I should do what Jason did and just
I mean,
rip it.
You still have to go back before each show and rewatch.
You'll have to let us know how that goes.
Like next week, I'll have to watch episode 4 again just to focus, so I can focus on that.
I get that.
See, I thought about doing that, but then I felt like I wouldn't be able to stop myself from
keeping watching it.
Going forward.
I like it. Keith is like, I know I have no self control, so I am going to artificially create barriers. I mean, good for you, buddy.
And it helped because like I hadn't finished Sweet Tooth yet, so I finished Sweet Tooth last night, so I was able to watch an episode of Prodigy and then go back to Sweet Tooth. Yeah.
What's Sweet Tooth?
Above all, Keith, above all, know thyself.
A really intense comic turn TV show.
It was a DC comic that was developed into a 3-season TV show by Robert Downey Jr. and his wife Susan.
Cool.
And
it's really good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Manny, you would love it. Actually.
Oh, thanks, man.
I highly recommend it.
And that would be an entire conversation that we'll take offline for real. Because I would love. I mean, it's Island of Dr. Moreau meets like Pokemon.
Well, and the fact that it premiered right at the beginning of the pandemic.
I know, right?
The timing was that.
Oh, it's that old. Okay, it's like 3 years old.
Well, no.
Well, it just finished.
Season 3 just came out a couple months ago.
Okay.
Because of the pandemic, there was a delay, but season 1 came out just at the beginning of the pandemic. And Amazon had a show called Utopia that came out just at the pandemic, but that also was very timely.
It was good.
Yeah.
Well written. Yes.
And it's also based off a comic.
Keith, I'm still waiting for us to go over the Pleroma and the God Killer and Kalas. The comic books for Star Trek right now are on fire.
So a man. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, baby.
Jason, I was gonna say a man asked me for a piece of tape today, and I was like, "Well, I got this white tape." He's like, "Oh, white, great." So then I watched him fold up a napkin and put it on his ear under his hat.
Oh God!
So, and there's like several people that are doing this.
Yeah, I've seen that at Rally.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
I'm watching like this guy.
Sorry to break it up and say that.
No comment.
No, man.
No comment.
And I'm out of bourbon. This is the worst. If we can bring it back to Prodigy, I do actually kind of want to talk about like character design and visuals for a little bit.
Go ahead.
Because I have to say that I'm really, really digging the imagery for Solum.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I really loved is how they managed to incorporate Vau N'Akat aesthetic themes in Gwyn's outfit that she was wearing when she beams down to Solum, right? Like it's very much a combination of her Vau N'Akat heirloom and then added to that in a Starfleet kind of arrangement, which is this sort of beautiful visual representation of what she's trying to do. But more than that, I love the visual language that we're creating in Prodigy. I know Prodigy gets some flack for being animated, right? And there's this weird bias in Trek fandom against animated features, and I just don't quite get it because
some people are just like that. Like they don't like.
Yeah, I know, but like what we're starting to see is we're getting an opportunity to see like vistas we've never seen before. I mean, yes, the Strange New World AR wall is phenomenal. right? I mean, that's wonderful, but like they're still dealing with physical human actors, and Prodigy isn't limited to that, which means we can have a Murph character.
Right.
Or think back to the first Contact episode they had last season, where you had those light creatures.
Yes.
And just absolutely spectacular design and imagery, and it was something that would have been incredibly expensive for them to try to do live action.
Yeah.
Right, and now we have Solem, which did anybody else find it very interesting that the heirlooms for the council members are all masks, and that they're blinded.
Yep.
Yes.
Which is a really, which is a.
I was gonna say their attire reminded me of the the art design for the Klingons in Discovery as well. Just not
I saw a lot of like I think somebody played a stupid amount of Diablo 3, the Heaven Zones. Honestly, when they were doing that design. But what I really loved about it is that, you know, it's a great visual metaphor for the fact that the denizens of Solem are blinded by their own bias and their insistence on being the most important.
Yeah, so it's that.
Oh yeah, I do like that. They freak me out though. Their culture, it's too nondescript. Like, as much as you like the actual aesthetic, I'm dissatisfied with the exposition. I want to know more about it. Like, they don't tell me enough.
We've gotten so little.
Yeah, it's too much. Like,
right, and some of that's because our POV character is Gwyn, who knows comparatively little. But what we do know is that at one point they were like the Vulcans, because apparently, like, we have two settings in Star Trek, which is we've either been peaceful forever or we've overcome violence. Right, like there's no kind of like. Well, I guess the Klingons technically still are violent, right? Like, but you know, Star Trek has a real habit of painting these these cultures as being like sort of one-note cultures, and some of that has to do with the nature of the stories that they're trying to tell and what they're trying to do. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's only more recently that we're starting to get very deep looks into what cultures could be. Like, one of my favorite throwaway dynamics in Picard is the fact that Romulans don't have front doors. They're fake.
Yeah.
That anybody who has any business coming to your house goes to your back door and lets themselves in, right? Like, and that just says so much about who they are as a people.
Sure. Because even worse than that, if you read the book, like their musical performances, the musicians stand in rooms surrounded by four walls. They cannot see the audience that they're performing to,
which is nuts.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the problem, and I think, I really think what they're trying to do.
You're right.
In a number of ways on Solem, is they're trying to fill in those tidbits of story visually. I think one of my favorite examples of that is actually Pacific Rim, the first film. We're ignoring the existence of the second.
I didn't watch it.
So Pacific Rim is, the actual story itself is pretty kind of blah. But there's this incredible rich tapestry of story notes that are done without dialogue and purely visually in the back.
Okay.
And so it actually, like, if you pay attention to what's going on behind you or behind the foreground, you see people living and dying in these desperate circumstances. And it just adds so much to the story. I think that's kind of what we're doing here in Solem, right? Like, so we have, like, at first glance, we have this beautiful, elegant, aesthetically pleasing vista. And then Gwyn hops into the marketplace, which is dark and closed, which again is part of, I think, that wonderful metaphor where, like, Solem is also all about image and presentation. So up here it's all beautiful and pretty, but in the places where everybody actually lives, it's almost cave-like, and that's of course where she finds her father. Ilthurin has been effectively cast aside, and so he's I mean, on the outskirts of town, possibly in the Solem version of slums. I don't know, but
well, you kind of want an astronomer to be out there to get away from the light pollution.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but I don't think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. That they've purposely done these thematically. So
right.
I hear you. I hear you.
And then we get to the actual existence of the Valera, which indicates that there is a history of violence. Although we're assuming it's a history of violence. There's a line by one of the council members where Gwyn asks what the Valera is going to be, and then he just says, "You'll find out." And it's taken sort of as being like, you asked for this, you're going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of actually wonder if there's a little bit. If there's just a little bit of a hint of, we don't actually know, like it's going to be different for everybody.
Because it's so old. Yeah.
So you get tossed into this battle dome, but there's just almost hieroglyphic script floating around and around and around the battle dome that tells a very different story.
Yeah, I like that. And to Jason's point, it does seem almost like it has a Klingon in that sense where it's this history of violence, but also like lost parts of their history where they like have some random ritual and then have to like go through something in order for honor or whatever to be satisfied. Like that also kind of reminded me, while at the same time also reminding me of ancient Vulcan culture.
That's what, see, for me, it's not necessarily it's not necessarily Klingon. It's more Vulcan.
Yeah, yeah. What I mean is I see the aesthetic, whereas functionally,
Right.
plot-wise, it is more Vulcan.
I was just saying like the aesthetics of what they were wearing.
The Discovery one in that.
Yeah, no,
first
that's
season.
fair.
Yeah,
That's fair. I mean, but I absolutely love the heirlooms.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's such a
like you
neat.
said, I like it.
I'm
conceit.
interested.
I want one.
I want to know how this
Right?
works.
I bet you somebody's making them.
Well, once it
Oh,
actually
in real
changed
life,
shape,
yeah.
though, I mean, that's
Well,
Keith
not
wants an
gonna do
actual
that.
heirloom.
Well, I mean, there is
I mean-
programmable metal.
I
could
got my
3D
Lucy, but he
you could
doesn't.
3D
eat
print
those.
one. You could 3D print one if you got a 3D printer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really such an interesting concept because the idea of the heirloom is it morphs from something to beautiful to whatever it is you do with it. And I just really like, I think there's such a great moment in that choreographed fight sequence between Gwyn and Essentia where Essentia is all about the weaponry, right?
Yeah.
And Gwyn's concept is to take that weaponry and turn it into a tool.
Redirect it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also somewhat, I don't know if you want to call it genetic, but it's handed down or
Yeah.
taken, right?
It's imprinted or something.
I mean, I think heirlooms have to be like I think you actually have to transfer control over an heirloom. Like that's a big deal.
Right. But I think they can actually,
Well, just
I
think
might,
of the
I
name,
might be
heirloom. Like
I
a
might be
family.
getting ahead. Might be getting
Uh-oh.
ahead.
Uh-oh.
What?
Don't
But I do
ruin it.
like you mentioned. I do love that she has her own design, like on her
Yeah.
her
It's
uniform.
very pretty.
Have they incorporated that?
It has a She-Ra
No.
thing, man.
Only
Like a-
Tuvix
Love
gets
it.
that. Only Tuvix gets to have that. You know. It's like,
I love-
But the nothing about Gwyn's aesthetic says like upholstery fire sale.
yeah, right.
I love the room that they go into as they're being lowered, and as you said,
Yes.
there's the hieroglyphic, and then
Right.
this the twinkling of all of these like
It's just made out of the stuff.
metallic, ionic things that are floating around, right? So they're basically like immersed in this programmable matter. Go ahead.
And they catch her and they catch Gwyn.
Yeah.
They catch her, yeah.
Yeah. Like
Because she falls through the floor, and yeah.
Mhm.
and so I think we're going to see like a major sort of realization or revelation to Gwyn about who Solem, like who the Vau N'Akat used to be, and who they. I mean, and maybe we'll see like some of that lay the blueprint for who the Vau N'Akat could be.
How many times on television are we going to see something decided by combat?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
something's
yeah, but I think
always
that's
decided by
that's the point though, is that this
Even
is
the
not
Pon
decided.
Farr. Even the
Yeah.
Pon Farr, like
And there's a few other Vulcan rituals where they fight.
I mean,
So yeah.
Kunut
Have you-
Caliphate.
have you read any American history, Jason?
I suppose.
I mean,
challenge-
Hamilton
challenge
springs
you-
to mind.
I think what he
So-
means is that
well-
we're always seeing this. Like that it's
Yeah.
like
But
you
this
know,
is
and
like
Which
major,
is one of the
this
things
is
that I
like
like.
major society changing, like what she's talking about, changes their whole civilization, and they're just
Right.
it's gonna boil down to this fight between these two ladies.
I guess it's just the plot armor.
But it
plot
doesn't
device.
though. Like I don't think it's going to. Like and you obviously have seen it and I don't. But like
No, but from what you've
I'm really-
seen, if Gwyn wins, it goes one way. If Cynthia wins, it goes another way. Like just from
maybe, but maybe not.
But we definitely. But I think we're seeing Prodigy trying to turn those tropes on their heads. I think there's an awareness of that.
I guess, yeah, it's a subversion, right? It's in a room where they don't need to fight and stuff. But I understand. I see that. It does seem simple though, and to Jason's point, like to decide something like this.
Yeah,
so
I understand what you're saying.
Right. Like, how many times are we going to see the trope of this incredibly violent ritual that we're going to put our children through to see if they survive?
For sure. Yeah, they're kids.
No, I understand what you're saying. That maybe that's not how it turns out, but I'm saying at that point, they made the decision to solve it
that way.
I'm not saying that that's how it ends up, but they're just all standing around.
They chose violence. Yes.
Yeah.
Right, but I think that says more about. I think that is a conversation more about the actual choice.
Yeah.
Right, but instead of
why we're making those choices,
instead of a civilization, an advanced civilization as theirs, doing more scrutiny and thought and discussion about it,
they literally blind their heads of state, man.
Yeah.
We
don't know enough about them.
I mean, they're trying for the blindness of justice, but that's not what's happening.
Exactly.
Their eyes are covered, but are they blind?
Sorry, Keith. Apparently, we're on the brainwave.
I don't know.
Yeah, it happens a lot. It's okay.
They haven't established that they're blind. They just said their eyes are covered.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they blinded themselves. I mean, it's anything covering your eyes messes with your vision.
Well,
I mean, you're not completely blinded.
What if it's VR? AVR.
Oh, it's like yeah, it could be.
Yeah, but like,
but
again,
you're talking a body problem now.
But I think we're like throwing out ideas and we're kind of ignoring like the symbolism that they're doing because like remember, Prodigy is smart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Prodigy has been smart since its first episode, and that's one of the things that I've really, really loved about the series is just how tight it is.
Way smarter than you'd expect a Nickelodeon kids show to be, but it's Star Trek, and it's
Well, but also, I mean, Avatar: The Last Airbender, dude.
Yeah.
And I think, my frustration with that statement is something I've expressed before, which is that we assume that children are not sophisticated consumers.
I guess.
Well, we've seen Barney.
Right, but who was Barney for?
Yeah, 3-year-olds, 3-year-olds,
right,
4-year-olds.
Right. And if there was some part of Barney that didn't work, they wouldn't watch it.
Yeah.
Like children are not willing to pay to give a series the benefit of the doubt, right? I will sit through a number of bad episodes knowing that eventually that first season of a Star Trek series is going to be okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I sat through the entire first half of Discovery. I sat through Picard season 1.
I love the first half of Discovery.
I also
for me, it turns around in the second half. I mean, like I sat through, like we all survived Picard season 2.
Yeah.
All right.
To get the
and we
gem
stuck
that
with
was
it.
Season 3.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Again, the Bell Ryans cannot catch a break.
Whereas my kids, if that episode loses their interest, they're done and they will walk away.
So maybe that's what we're missing, or at least I am. I'm not looking at it from the point of view of a child watching. I'm watching it like it's another Star Trek property. I'm not thinking this is for kids. So sometimes I do feel like,
it's wholly for children.
Yeah.
Keith?
Aaron would say, we wrote Star Trek that's accessible for all ages. It's not that we wrote it for kids. It's just we are the kids show, but it's for everyone.
Yeah. And different ages will take different things from it.
Exactly.
I mean, just like you can go back and watch cartoons that you used to watch when you were a kid, and you'll pick up completely different things.
More pissed at dolls than the kids would be.
But Jason, you like the season overall?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's got like a 90% tomato meter score for the season.
Yeah,
As was Lower Deck season 4. So
got some nice elements to it that I like.
I'm excited. I'm super excited to see where we go.
We just hit 1 hour.
I know, and it's kind of hurting me that the Hagemans don't think we're going to see any more.
Well, they're saying if you want to see more, you got to be watching. You got to watch this every time. You got to get friends to watch it. We need to be watching if we want season 3.
Netflix, we want more Prodigy.
Yeah.
They'll pick it up if it's lucrative. Otherwise, at this point, I'm like just
Netflix
thankful
is
for
dodgy
whatever.
about that, though.
Yeah.
Like Netflix can be dodgy about that, like in a very real way. But all right, folks. We are going to be doing episode 4 of the 2nd season of Prodigy next week. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your parents, send smoke signals. Let everybody know. We'll see you next week.
All right. See ya.
Wait, Jason, on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you being right now? I gotta know.
I'm serious, dude. You got
like 10 out of 10 serious, or picking on Michael serious? Which one?
There is no temperature in space. It's not cold.
What are you serious?
Okay, wait.
Who is? Oh dear God! It just got
because you
better.
said his name.
Welcome to the party, Michael.
No, that is not how we're going to end the episode because Keith actually has like a legitimate news update. He knows shit, and we should possibly like convey that knowledge.
That's my favorite line. He knows shit.
It's just like a black and red mound. It's like.
Why are you describing yourself?
What the hell?
Hello from
Hey, Virgil.
Hey,
Virgil.
welcome.
Hello, Virgil. Welcome. Who are you?